Welcome back to Guns and Gems. So this is a fitness focused episode. Little update from me. I'm feeling really good. My lifts are getting heavier. I am kind of noticing a little bit more in the PR area where I'm able to pull a lot more weight. It's been more fun. I feel like recovering from a competition, when it just hurts to squat like 135, it's not fun. And I do enjoy the strength gains, even if it means that I do, my physique does end up looking a little bit different. There's importance in both sides of it, right? So, I've actually been talking to multiple coaches, so I'm excited about that. I think I landed on one that I want to really just get in and work with. And then I have a possible major surgery coming up, so I'm figuring out how to plan a bodybuilding show around that. So that's been an exciting time. So this is our fitness focused episode, and it is on label reading. It is so important to be able to effectively understand the nutrients that we're putting into our body and make choices in the grocery store. These are I'm going to talk about an app that you can use, but I think it is nice to go back to the basics and learn the basics, because the app may not agree with your personal goals, and you need to just figure out what's in the food, So, I'm just going to talk about each section and what exactly I look for. Servings per and serving size. I look at this briefly just to get an idea about how many servings I can get out of one box or one package. Kind of more on the financial side, is it a good deal? Does it only have one serving? Can I serve multiple people with it? How big are the servings? If it's something where it's half an ounce as a serving, I'm like, because it's I have to almost double it because I know that I'm going to want more. You can tell me the macronutrients of one cookie, but if I know that I want 4, I don't know. Just help me with my math and figuring out how much realistically I want to eat. Calories, to me, this tends to mean a little bit less because I'm not on a pure calorie counting diet, but it just allows me to glance at it and see do I want to continue reading? I think that there are high calorie foods that are good for you, and there are low calorie foods that are bad for you. So calories tend not to mean as much to me, but it may mean a lot depending on the person's program. Total fat, I briefly look at this and figure out if I should continue looking at the item. I try to make this as fast as possible because, when I was doing this before, I was standing in a store, and I hate spending too much time in the grocery store while I still want to make the right choices for myself. If this is 0, then I skip the next thing I'm going to talk about and go on to looking at the cholesterol. So the next thing, subsets of fat. This includes trans and saturated fat. It's a really important part of the nutrition label. To me, this tells me if it has two fats that I want to avoid. I want to avoid trans fat completely, and I want to avoid foods high in saturated fat. There are some items with saturated fat that I still do eat, but since I have been tracking everything, it has significantly gone down, and this is definitely for the better. Cholesterol, I try and keep this number under 200 milligrams per day. Extra bonus points if this number is even lower. Obviously, with a meat-eating diet, you will have some, but reduce red meat and full-fat dairy products to reduce the amount of cholesterol in your daily foods. Sodium, I try and keep this under 2,300. Someone who is healthy and active throughout the day does not have to worry about a higher-ish sodium diet, but it is still worth keeping track of it just to get an idea of your intake on all areas. When I started tracking my diet, I was absolutely shocked at how much sodium I ate through processed foods. Being able to cook my own foods and measure each ingredient has helped me greatly. I learned how to make the food that I like to eat in restaurants. I saved money and I was able to fit them in my macros because I had control over what exactly I was putting in them. I also just really found that I do enjoy the process of cooking and learning different dishes. Recently, I learned how to make drunken noodle. There is this site that has awesome Asian recipes. It's called Woks of Life, WOKS of Life. Clever name. And I took their recipe and modified it a little bit to fit the macros that I wanted in my diet, but the sauces stayed relatively the same. And so now I don't have to spend like 18 bucks on it at a restaurant. It is now so much cheaper because I'm using ingredients that I have, or I buy a big bottle of the sauces that I need, and then I'm using it for multiple batches. The only things I'm really buying are like the fresh noodles and the vegetables, and like I already have chicken breast, I already have, all the sauces, so I can actually add in better quality meats and vegetables, so even better. Total carbohydrates. This number in general just gives me an idea of what I'm dealing with. Again, nothing crazy if it's higher, but it depends on the source, and I'll go into the carb subsets. Fiber. This is what you want a lot of in your food. The total carb number may be high, but if fiber is high, it still isn't terrible for you. Keto breads will have high fiber, but donuts, for example, will not, but they both may have higher-ish carbs. Should you offset the total carbohydrates with fiber? This is like a huge thing you see, and with the popularity of the keto movement, you will see keto breads and pastries, and a lot of the draw around them is how many net carbs are in the foods. I don't necessarily think that it offsets cleanly like you would think. There are two types of fiber, insoluble and soluble fiber, and the soluble fiber will digest, whereas the insoluble won't, and so it's hard to say how much is and is not digested. So I usually just stick with a total carbohydrate count while keeping an eye on how much fiber I'm getting with a goal of like high fiber. Total sugars and added. This number can be confusing depending on the item. Obviously, fruit-based items will have natural sugars, and so it matters to me less. The added sugars will be the biggest determining factor on whether or not I buy the product. Protein, probably one of my biggest metrics, especially with like snacky foods. I like eating foods at night when I'm doing work, watching TV, writing these episodes. High protein foods are prioritized for me for sure. It is a way that I don't have to drink protein powder, and I can get my protein from other sources when, that's a goal for me. Vitamins and minerals, I tend not to focus on these because I do take multivitamins. So if you are concerned about it, get blood work done and then look at where you are deficient. Otherwise, I tend not to look at this one too much. So when I'm looking at labels, the biggest pieces I'm looking at is sugars, added sugars, saturated fat, cholesterol, and protein. That's kind of how I judge whether or not I'm buying it, whether or not I'm not. So now that we talked about the nutritional label, I'm going to talk about the easiest way to do this. The Yuka app. It's spelled Y-U-K-A, has a little carrot as a logo. It's your grocery store buddy. This is an awesome app where you're able to scan items and it gives you a score, and then it pulls up the ingredients and highlights things that you should, pros and cons. It kind of makes your pro and con list for you. Super easy. It rates it out of 100, and then it gives negatives and positives, like additives, whether or not it has high in sugar, calorie amount, sodium, fiber amount. I think it's great because they're independently funded, and so you're not having biased opinions on which foods you should and should not eat. It also rates your cosmetics and your grocery store foods, which is amazing. There are also no ads, which is, I am just getting so sick of in-app ads. So if I scan a product and it doesn't like it, say I scan a bag of tortilla chips and it has like saturated fat. It'll say, okay, this one has saturated fat in it, but we actually recommend this one that either doesn't have it or has less of it. So they try to make a recommendation of a similar but better scoring product. So I think that's awesome. I would download that app today. So for example, I scanned Safeway's brand Signature makes a 50% less sodium, 50% less sugar tomato ketchup that I've been using on everything. And so it scored it 57 out of 100, so it gave it the grade of good. I have no additives in it, which is great. It's low on calories, low on no saturated fat. It only has 2 grams of sugar, which it said it was low impact. And then it said the negatives was an orange, not a red. It said it was a little bit too salty and then gave me 71 milligrams of salt for each serving. And so I have that product in there. Another product that I scanned that I didn't end up buying, which I was kind of sad about, was the Everyone lotion it's the EO brand, Everyone Coconut Lemon scent. And so I scanned it and it got 45 out of 100. It was rated as poor. The ratings go good, poor, bad, I think. It got poor. It got poor because some of the additives, and so I was looking through it. There's moderate risk on one of them, and so I can click on that additive and I can read more about it. What does it do? It gives me the 3 health risks: endocrine disruptor, allergen, and irritant. Okay, and then it says which studies that has come from. And then it gives me all the other ingredients. All the other ingredients have no risk. There are 2 that have low risk. And then I can see their recommendations on what exactly they say would be a better option that has low risk or no risk additives to it. So the app is completely free. Download it today, take it to the grocery store with you, or just go into your pantry and start scanning stuff. I feel like you're going to be shocked at it. But I don't know, good shocked, bad shocked, who knows? But just try it out. It's a lot of fun, and I think it has really opened my eyes on what kind of products I am using and having in my house. So I would encourage everyone, download it, at least give it a try. Thank you for listening.